What's going on, guys? Today we are bringing you the build that has been requested far more than any other, what we are calling the CATFISH build. I set out with the goal of making a build where we can sit back and let Vex's pet cat Trouble and our pet fish the Slippy do all the work for us. The way we've built it, your primary purpose will simply be to shoot a high rate of fire weapon to just provide support for Trouble and for your Slippies by stacking up damage bonuses and providing Trouble with constant healing. This build doesn't abuse any bugs or glitches whatsoever, although you can absolutely abuse Groundbreaker with this build if you like, thanks to one of the central components of this build, Reverburnations, but it's absolutely not required. We'll take you through the key synergies and the perks that make this build function, as well as the skills and specializations that we select and the gear that we're chasing. And then we'll round things out with some gameplay. So there are a couple key synergies in this build, the most important one by far being the use and scaling of the Reverburnations passive found in the blue tree for Vex. This is an incredibly strong melee based passive that deals a huge amount of bonus incendiary melee damage. One of the main focuses of the build will be to scale this bonus damage as high as possible. Many of our skill tree damage increases will actually double dip with this bonus melee damage and allow us to take multipliers that we otherwise would not be able to take advantage of, and will let us scale Trouble and Slippy's melee damage to insane levels. Now, unfortunately, Trouble's melee at base can only be scaled so high, but using this Reverburnations passive, we're able to increase his damage by 9 or 10 times the normal amount, thanks to several double dipping multipliers that we're able to take with this build. And we have a flat 50% chance to proc that damage bonus on every melee hit, which is essentially every single one of Trouble's attacks, whether it be his basic attack, his action skill, his command skill, or his capstone. So one of the main focuses of this build will be increasing this as high as possible, and we do that through taking action skill damage, gun damage, and all damage dealt, which all act as additional multipliers for Reverburnations, which we'll get into greater detail further in the video. The second key synergy that we take advantage of is the combination of a Siphon shield. This can be any Siphon shield, along with the Overheal passive found in the red tree. So the way this gameplay loop works, with the Siphon trait, which can be found on many purple shields, as well as several legendary shields, when we deal damage, we have a 5% chance to grant 937 overshield. Now, this damage can come from any source, including our cat Trouble or our fish grenade Slippy. The overshield itself does not get applied to Trouble, but we do activate this Overheal passive, where whenever Vex has an overshield, she and her minions gain health regen. So when Trouble deals damage, he is giving Vex an overshield, which in turn funnels healing back into Trouble. So he'll be able to self-sustain by using this loop. We don't need to do any damage if we don't want to. He will get up to 3% healing per second just from this passive. So this gives him a lot of staying power during our mobbing encounters, which is where he's at his strongest. So those are the two big points that make this build function. Now we can get into the skill tree. Half red tree, half blue tree. No points in green tree, which I know super rare for a Vex build, but we don't need it at all, as you'll see. So we'll start in red tree, which is Trouble's main tree. We take Blood as Magic to start. This is 40% action skill damage at full health. This is very important because this is one of those traits that we talked about earlier that will actually double dip with Reverburnations damage. So essentially, this increases Trouble's damage at base. And worth noting, this is all of his damage. He doesn't need to be in his action skill, which is his badass mode. This will just increase his base melee damage by 40%. And then furthermore, whenever Reverberations procs, it is also increased by an additional 40% thanks to Blood as Magic. I'm not sure if Reverberations is coded as an action skill or something, but I've tested every trait in this skill tree extensively for this build, and this is in fact double dipping, and it essentially serves as a 40% multiplier in addition to half of our gun damage that we take throughout the tree to further scale Reverburnations. So that's why instead of the 240% that the tooltip reads for Reverburnations are dealing somewhere around 9 to 10x the damage of our initial hit. So this is an absolute mandatory must pick, and we just need to make sure Vex stays at full health at all times, and this will be at full value. Second row, we take Grave Command. This is the only way to reduce Trouble's command skill, which for us is Blink Strike. When he's mobbing, this will be proccing very frequently, and he will get his Blink Strike back every 3-ish kills. And then we put 2 more points into Grave Sustenance, which will extend his action still duration every time he gets a kill. You can put more or less points here if you want, but this is the most value in the second row. You can take Yowl and Bay for gun damage after commanding the Blink Strike, but sort of up to you. But we were able to recover his action skill very quickly through Reawakening and through now with caffeine and the specialization tree, so these points aren't necessarily required. Onto the third column, we take 2 points in Overheal for the synergy we mentioned earlier. The Overheal will proc if we get Overshield from a Siphon shield. So that's a way for Trouble to self-sustain, and that we can deal damage to give ourselves even more Overshield, which will make sure that he definitely has this at all times. You can put 1 more point here if you feel that it's not healing him enough, or take points out if you think it's overkill. And then we take Claw and Bang. So another interesting thing, Claw and Bang does not double dip with Reverburnations like Blood is Magic does, but this passive for some reason just has double the value that's listed here. So this is actually, we have 24 damage with 3 points. It's actually 48% damage. I've tested this extensively as well. So Claw and Bang as well as Fell Inscriptions are just giving double the damage that their tooltip shows. So that's a free 48% damage for 3 points. You really can't beat that. Once again, you can allocate more points here if you want. This also double dips in our Slippy because that's a melee and an ordnance. And then we move on to the bottom row here. So we take Keen Fiends. This gives Trouble a 20% crit chance. Aside from this, he has no crit chance, so this is a great trick to pick. It's just free damage. And then we put 1 point into Reawakening. This gives us a 5% chance to cool down his action skill every time we crit. This has a 2-second cooldown. So with a high rate of fire weapon, we are proccing this pretty frequently. And for me, it seems like 1 point is plenty here to get our action skill back quickly, combined with Now is Caffeine. But if you want to proc more, then feel free to put more points there. But a very important skill in this tree is Sacrificial Essence. So Sacrificial Essence gives Vex and her minions increased damage dealt, but makes Vex also take more damage for a duration. This duration is 40 seconds, so it lasts for a very long time. So this is up very frequently in mobbing encounters, which is where Trouble excels. Now, non-specific damage dealt, as you see here, just flat, it just says damage dealt. Those sources are also double dipping Reverburnations. So once again, the way that works, damage dealt will just increase Trouble's base melee by, say we have 10 stacks with 4 points, that's 60% increase, which is additive with his other melee damage and action skill damage, and all those are all additive. But when Reverberation procs, Reverberation is increased by another 60% with Sacrificial Essence. That's added together with the 40% from Blood is Magic, as well as our gun damage and any other just plain damage dealt increases. Those are the 3 buckets you're looking for the most: action skill, damage dealt, and gun damage, as well as just skill damage, which we aren't able to take. There is some in Green Tree, but it's just too far away for us to take. But those all essentially act as multipliers, so those are huge value. You can honestly take 1 out of Reawakening and put 5 out of 5 here if you'd like to, but that's up to you. We take this Capstone. It is pretty solid. It does just increase Trouble's overall damage output. You know, every time he deals damage, there's a 15% chance to spawn an illusion. Those illusions do about 50% of his total base damage. Essentially, it's just free damage whenever they're active. They can proc Reverberations and take all the same multipliers and everything like that. So this isn't too bad, and you don't need to really do anything. They just will spawn whenever Trouble's dealing damage. And then for our augment, we mentioned already, but we take Blink Strike. So this just does a Blink Strike to a target that we designate, and it will deal damage. And it will crit any enemies that are less than 50% health. So we can crit bosses and badasses pretty easily with this if we just wait for them to hit that 50% threshold, and then we just blink strike them and they can crit. And if a Reverberation hits on that crit, then it will usually just one-shot them from there. And that's it for Red Tree. So Blue Tree, Fell Inscriptions, 7 out of 5. We get 2 points from our Fire Dancer class mod. So similar to Claw and Bang, this melee damage, 49% here, is actually just simply doubled for whatever reason. So we're really getting 98% melee damage. It also gives us and Trouble 42% more health. We also take Cold Iron, increased gun damage. Half of this is applied to our minions due to I am a gun in the specialization tree. As I mentioned 30 times by now, gun damage does double dip with Reverberations when you take I am a gun. So we like to take gun damage wherever we can, and there's nothing else really in here worth taking. We also take 5 out of 5 Sanguine Fiends. Every time Trouble gets a kill, he restores 20% HP, so that combined with Overheal gives him a lot of tankiness. Then we move down to the bottom here. Recurrence, massive trait here. Whenever Vex or her minions deal gun and melee damage, you gain a stack of Recurrence, which increases their gun and melee damage. So as you can see here, if you see in the bottom left, the stacks that are slowly increasing, 8, 9, 10. So Trouble can stack them himself. Those are their recurrent stacks. So we can help him get them to 50 quicker, and then he can just keep them at 50 just by dealing damage. That is an excellent trait, and it increases our gun damage by 40% and our melee damage by 50% when fully stacked, which is basically all the time. And once again, that gun damage does double dip with Reverberation. So that's like a 40% multiplier when it's added with all our other gun and action skill damage. But that is a big increase to Reverberations, which is our main source of damage. So this is just insanely strong. And then we come to the star of the show, Reverberations. Melee damage dealt by Vex or her minions has a chance to deal incendiary melee damage. That's those big incendiary procs that we've been yapping about. We have ours at 240%. You can get this all the way up to 300%. If you want to take a point out of red tree somewhere, you will no longer have double trouble, but you could get a little extra 30% here. You're perfectly fine to do that. Although I've actually tested it, and when Sacrificial Essence is fully ramped, since that this damage dealt is a double dip, it's actually more worth taking this over one more point of Reverberations. But if you want to play around with it, feel free. You can also get +5 on the class mod. I believe you can. I have only gotten a +4, so that would be another extra little damage increase. So yeah, that's the skill tree. Quickly on the specializations. Now with caffeine combined with our triple bypass rep kit means that we get our action skill cooldown back extremely quickly. So as you can see here, once our action skill runs out, which is the pink bar, we can just hit 1 rep kit, 2 rep kit, 3 rep kit, and we already have 5-second cooldown. We can try to hit some shots to get it down instantly, and it's back. So very little downtime. And then as Trouble's getting killed, since we have triple bypass on, it's refunding charges very frequently, and we can just keep rinsing and repeating there. I am a gun is very important. This is what allows that gun damage to double dip, because it makes half our gun damage count as action skill damage, and for whatever reason, Reverberation counts as an action skill. So Gearbox, please don't fix that. But yeah, that's why we take I am a gun. We take Riddle You This for, once again, 50% more gun damage, and which is double dipping. I know I've said double dipping about 60 times, but I can't stress how important that is for us. So I Riddle You This, we can stack up easily. Unfortunately, Trouble cannot stack and keep these stacks up himself unless you take his legendary class mod, but then we lose a huge chunk of Reverberations damage, which is not worth doing. So that's why we take this here. Now for your fourth one, you have a couple options. The best defense, as I mentioned, the damage dealt bucket does double dip. I haven't tested best defense because I don't have the funds to keep respecking, but I would assume that this damage dealt would double dip. If someone really wants to know, I can like go farm some vial bounties and test it for you, but I just have not gotten around to doing that. That would be probably your best in slot there if you don't want to use Groundbreaker. Now, I don't think Groundbreaker is required for this build. I don't use it. I like to just kill the bosses with Slippy and with Trouble damage, but Groundbreaker is completely broken with Reverburnations, and we'll just show you quickly how that works. So with Groundbreaker active, all the damage that's being dealt is being stored up for a large melee damage proc that we can proc ourselves. For whatever reason, Trouble cannot proc Groundbreaker, but he can stack it. So he'll stack it up a bunch, and then we'll do a hit, and you'll see that hit for about 70k melee, which isn't bad. What we're looking for, though, is for a Reverberations proc. So there it is. We hit 650k. 150k Reverberations, pretty good damage, right? The thing is, this Reverberations proc is starting to stack towards our next Groundbreaker. So you'll see if we do another hit, it will hit for probably about 140k, 200k even more. And then we just got another Reverberations proc, which is doing 10x of our base melee damage, because that's what our Reverberations is scaled to right now. So now we just hit a Reverberations for 2 million. So what that means is now our next melee is going to do 2 million, and we got another Reverberations proc, this one for only 2 million. But by now we've just done 6 million damage in about 3 melees, and it'll just keep scaling up. Look, we just hit another one, 15 million. Even our Watts for Dinner sitting for 1 million. But that's 16 million. That's just going to kill every boss in the game. 12 million. We didn't get a lucky proc that time, but everything should be dead by now. 1 million. We can just do like a quick little... Just punch us a bunch, and I'll just show you how high the damage goes. We should break the game here. Yeah, I don't know how many numbers that is, but that will just kill everything. So if you want to abuse some bugs, Groundbreaker is insane with Reverburnations. So just letting you know that's there. Like I said, not required for the build. We can kill all the bosses with our 2 abilities unless they are flyers. But yeah, just something that I thought you guys should know about if you don't already. So that rounds it up for the specializations. So we'll go through the gear very quickly. Fire Dancer is a key part of this build. This gives us a bunch of Reverburnation stacks. We have +4 with level +5. Melee damage is nice here. Damage dealt is great here because it double dips. So yeah, unfortunately, I did want to use his legendary class mod and build around that, but it just doesn't do much for us. It basically gives ourselves bonus kinetic damage, which isn't a lot and not impactful. And we're not trying to focus on our guns. We're trying to focus on Trouble's damage. And it also allows Trouble's command skills to deal gun damage, which is okay for some scenarios, but it just doesn't come anywhere close to Reverburnations. So I would love to see this reworked in some way in the future. For our shield, we're using Watts for Dinner with Siphon. You can use any shield here with Siphon. I would recommend a Siphon shield for the Overheal synergy, where that allows Trouble to self-sustain. Watts for Dinner is great because it also drops these little overshield balls. When hit, you can see Trouble and our fishes have been just generating a ton of them. And every time we pick them up, that also gives us overshield. So we can kind of run around and pick up their breadcrumbs, and just that will just keep healing them over and over. But like I said, as long as it has Siphon on it, you can really use any shield and experiment here. Enhancement doesn't do much for the build. You know, I would just match to your weapon. I use Wombo Combo a lot, so I like this Vladoff one. The gun damage increases in here do not apply to your skills or to Reverberation, so don't worry about that. Just pick any enhancement here that you like. For our grenade, as we've talked about, we use Slippy because he deals melee damage, and they will deal the same damage as your current attunement, and they just do a ton of damage. This is our bossing tool, and they just make the build just much smoother to play. And then for our rep kit, we do use triple bypass, as we've probably mentioned by now. 3 charges. We also have the trait where our rep kit cooldown is reduced by an additional 33%, so we can spam it even more. You can get any trait here, but I would just recommend a triple bypass. I was almost about to upload this video, and I didn't even mention the weapons. The weapons don't really matter too much. You're honestly just looking for something that either has a high rate of fire or has a lot of projectiles hit. So you can stack up Riddle You This and Recurrence quickly. Other than that, honestly, like you can just use guns you enjoy. Like I use the Wombo Combo in so many builds, and this one's no different, but you have a ton of options. I would try to get one of preferably Incendiary, Corrosive, and Radiation just to deal with like the different health types, but the weapons are honestly completely up to you. For our firmware, we use Action Fist ×2, which gives us 15% melee and 10% action skill. This action skill in our firmware doesn't double dip. That's okay. Real Big Fist ×2 gives us 40% melee damage. And then I've been experimenting with Airstrike because his melee does deal splash damage. So I put this on thinking it might increase the radius of his melee AoE, and I think it does. It's hard to like really test something like that. It could be placebo, but it does seem to hit more targets in a group. So this is nice. I was almost tempted. I think there's another firmware that increases splash radius further. So I was kind of tempted to try that, but be careful though, because this will also increase your Slippy splash radius, and these can and will one-shot you. So just something to be aware of. Maybe don't go too crazy with the splash radius, but so now that we've gone through everything, the rest of the video will just be some gameplay in Drill Site and some bossing, and then we will wrap it up. Okay, so we are at the Pitted Stain drill site down in the Idolator's Noose to kill the Foundry Freaks. I hadn't done this one in a while, like honestly since I was leveling, so I just wanted to come down here, switch it up a little bit. I don't think it really drops anything useful for us, but just for a quick little demonstration. So I did do 2 runs, but we weren't streaming, or sorry, we weren't recording. So we are gonna just run it back now. This is a very ad-dense drill site compared to like the other ones I'm used to, which is actually really fun for Trouble. I can just sit here and live while he does all the work. You'll see his mobbing's very good, and then his bossing leaves a bit to be desired, but that is why we have our Slippies. So we'll let him like do some boss damage for a bit, and then we'll come help out, just to kind of show you what we're working with. Actually, we'll play. So I mean, usually I'm shooting stuff here. I'm just purposely not shooting so you can kind of see. Get him! Get him! Protect me! I blew up anyway. Thought he got incinerated. I guess the bombs don't get incinerated, huh? This guy's aping me. I'm gonna just shoot him. There's enough ads in here. Trouble's got plenty to eat. Something big up there, so send him up there. Far shot. So you see the suicide bombers like will sprint at them sometimes. This guy's sprinting at me, so we're gonna throw a fish at him. But yeah, I mean they take a bunch of aggro. They're not even in badass mode, and they can, you know, they can sustain. The more kills they get, the more they heal. They do AoE attacks, so when the mobs group up on them, every melee is like hitting all of them and can one-shot a whole group. Yeah, it's nice. I know the bosses spawn. I'm just clearing out some trash. So we'll go up here. Actually, this is what I would normally do is I would burn the shields down with the. I mean, look how much the damage the Slippies do. Just pretty much burn this guy's shield down immediately. And I might blow myself up when I put Slippy. Be careful of that. I'm gonna bring in, we're gonna bring Trouble up here to finish the job. Never mind, he ran away. Took some shit personal, I guess. So in the background, they actually burned down Sal's shield. I don't know where Sal is. They're just kind of putting in work up here. Trying to stay out of the way a little bit. Just let them go to work. So they're in the splat. I can summon him back though because I had his action skill. So when they stand in like the radiation, the little damage over time pools, they do take a lot of damage. I'm taking a lot of damage from somebody, so I should probably help. They're doing okay. I don't really know who's who. That's a boss. The bosses just look like normal enemies. They got like cornered and died there. That was interesting. So I don't really know where this Sal guy lived. We'll get rid of him. Yeah, so you see his cooldown's pretty short. I just like I just like love clearing trash with them. Oh, here's the other boss. So I'll let them focus on him for a while. Kill anybody that around. Alright, we're gonna see if we can get a crit blink strike here on this boss. Boom! 400k. So as you can see, their bossing's like mid to low tier, I would say. But the Slippies do a lot. We didn't use them there too much because we just wanted to show what Trouble can do, because I know that's like what people really want to see. I'm sure people know Slippies do a lot of damage in a melee build, but I wanted to show Trouble can hold his own. But honestly, like if you're doing fights, you have your Slippies and your other equipment for a reason, so just use them. Okay, so we're on our way to Horace right now. I figured this would be a good way to show like how he does against the Order. We're gonna use our complex route for this, where we just swap between energy and radiation. See, he's still like doing a lot of damage to these guys. Singularity, he isn't affected by singularities either, which is nice. So they're just beating on this guy. Got the corrosive for him. Like I said, normally I would be shooting. This guy's a badass, so we're just gonna throw a fish at him. And he's dead. Trouble is finding someone on the ground over here. Guy gets stuck onto the staircase. Wow, you guys are bullies, man. Oh, that was a badass that he just destroyed. Yeah, the flying targets are an issue. He just isn't really able to hit them, but he does have a. I'll show you here if I can target this guy. Might hit him from the ground. They hit him once, so they have this little tail tack that they do against people in the air. The problem with that is it does not count as melee damage for some reason. So that's why it's doing almost no damage, and it will not proc Reverburnations, and it's just basically useless. It will knock them out of the air sometimes, but it can take a little while. So yeah, flying targets are definitely his biggest weakness. Oh my god, oh, I thought he one-shot that guy. One-shot his shield though. We'll go corrosive for him. So just something to keep in mind. I would love to see them buff that tail attack to count as melee damage. That would do so much for the build. You have no idea. He just one-shots a bunch of people. They're kind of just going crazy. Go to radiation, and we'll give him a little command attack. He went under the stairs, so he's going up and he'll apply the damage anyway, which is nice. They're just beating on these guys. Got 3 illusions up, I think that was. Yeah, so they're just not gonna do any damage, but you can knock them to the ground and then finish them. Oh, what the hell, Jesus! Trouble's angry. We'll rep kit to get our badass mode back. Oh, I was on the wrong element. No, you still did all that damage. So as you can see, I mean, even though the Reverburations is incendiary only, it's still such a large damage instance that it can still do a lot of damage to these guys. So he one-shot that guy. One-shot that guy. Oh, sorry. Wrong element. So like I said, normally you can just stay on kinetic if you don't want to keep switching elements, but once again, this is just sort of a showcase. You see we're getting our command skill very quickly when they're mobbing. So I just used it when I started talking, and now it's back already. Oh wait, I hear something crazy. Thing under? There it is. So we'll see how he does here. Well, they're beating on him. They broke his things. The AoE should break the balls too. And it has another command skill. And dead. So, I mean, you know, he definitely gets the job done. That wasn't... There's like those, they call them the bulkheads. They're like the chunky, sort of four-legged looking order dudes. They struggle a little bit against those because, like I said, they do that slam attack and they leave like an elemental splat on the ground, and that seems to melt trouble. So just something to know. Yeah, just fun to like vile bounty farm with him, to do like drill sites, all kinds of stuff. Honestly, all content, like I'm not even just saying this to like, oh, try to force trouble to be like viable. I think this build is like legitimately viable. I'm in UVH5 for all this content, obviously, and you know, you can have him do this. You can shoot if you want. You don't have to shoot. You can use your fish all the time to just destroy stuff too. Like I can just one-shot that guy if I want. Ooh. Next fish. And obviously use it on... Ooh, speaking... That's why I got the fish gave me the fish eye. That's crazy work. With the Jacobs, does that always roll Jacobs? I don't even know. Alright, so we might as well fight this boss while we're here. Oh, he's airborne though, isn't he? Yeah, so this might be an issue. I'm actually curious. Go radiation. If you blink him. He did some damage. Oh, he's doing his tail attack. So we'll have to do this shield. Actually, we'll just throw a fish at him. How's that? Moved out of the fish. That's a bad fish. One more fish. So I think when this guy's shield breaks, he knocks to the ground, in which case we can destroy him. I'm gonna get his command skill back. It's still up. Shoot my gun. I think when his shield breaks, he falls, right? Yeah. So then we can just hit him with one of these. Boom! He hit the crit. He almost one-shot him. He did like 660k. Oh, we got the gun. So I came here because I wanted to get Egg on his Dream because I haven't gotten one yet. With the Jacobs? Does this always roll Did I just get a God roll? I don't know. I don't really know what this always rolls, but I really wanted to try it because I wanted an Incendiary gun to go with Trouble that also deals like other damage types. So I use the Wom combo all the time. I wanted to switch it up, but this might be sick. I wish I got this at the beginning of the video. Crazy rate of fire with the double barrel. Yeah, this might actually be really good for this build. But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really proud of this one. I think Trouble's legitimately viable, and yeah, he is stinking cute, as Vex just said. I mean, look at him. He's doing. You get the spearnies. You gotta give him the pets. Oh my goodness. Oh, big stretch. Oh, big stretch. Oh. And so yeah, just a ton of fun. I don't know. It's just seeing him go around one shot and people is hilarious fun. And then just the fishes bouncing and doing a million damage per bounce is just like crazy. Yeah, it's just a good time. And yeah, I think this is sort of the ceiling to where we can get with Trouble right now. This build will only get better in the future. I'm sure more buffs will come at some point. But in the meantime, you know, you can use this and sort of learn the ins and outs. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.